Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is time for part 3 of 4 for the NFL best case scenario for all 32 NFL teams. Here we are in part 4. Not part 4, part 3. We are nearly done. And honestly, I got to kind of hurry up because the regular season is rapidly approaching. Actually, week 1 of the preseason also just recently wrapped up. It is good. It is good, man. Football is basically back. Some people say football's back when the regular season starts. I think it's pretty normal to say it's back official when the preseason begins because that's when football is football no matter what. Anyways, here are the teams being covered in this part. If you don't see your team on here, your team is going to be in the last part, which is part 4. We're going to start with the Bengals and end the day with the Chicago Bears. Again, if you haven't seen the other videos and you just skipped to this one, the gist of these videos is I go over each team, their schedule, and their overall kind of best case scenario, like their ceiling essentially. Not every team has the exact same goals. Some teams generally have a real Super Bowl push, and some might be pushing for the number 1 overall pick or at least a high draft pick coming next year. But let's get started with, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals have missed the playoffs for I think 3 years in a row now. It's been at least 3 years since they made the playoffs, and all 3 of the years have kind of been because of one thing, because of Joe Burrow being injured for one reason or another, because of their glass offensive line. Not really glass, I would say really weak one. Anyways, schedule isn't particularly super tough. Week 1 against the Bucks, I mean that is a tough game at the end of the day, but I do believe they're a better team. Then they got Houston, that's a tough game, of course. You got Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, the Dolphins, that's easy. And overall, if you look at the schedule, there's no super teams on here. I generally think their toughest opponents on their schedule is legit probably the Texans. And of course, maybe the Jags and Ravens, of course. Well, that Raven, the divisional rivals, they don't count. And maybe the Chiefs, depends on in what form they are by that time of the year, by December. Are they in good form or are they in bad form? It kind of depends on how things go for the Chiefs. But overall, the schedule isn't particularly difficult. There are generally some really easy, winnable games in here, and there are some tough games. But at the end of the day, I see more easy games than tough games. I do think they can easily handle the Panthers. No diss to the Panthers. The Panthers are a much improved team, but I still think the Bengals are better. And let's be real, the Bengals are fully healthy Bengals. And what I mean by fully healthy, I just mean by Joe Burrow being healthy. This team is a playoff team. And you notice it every single time they've missed the playoffs, Joe Burrow has gotten hurt. So in the most hopeful best case scenario, Joe Burrow is healthy for the entire year or at least a majority of the year. Like he can miss maybe two weeks. That's nothing terrible, hopefully, as long as they don't lose both of those games. But a healthy Joe Burrow can carry this team to the playoffs, okay? Their offense is a really good unit. You got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and some other good players on that offense. Their defense has been pretty bad over the last few years, but I do think they've vastly improved. They brought in Boye Mafe from the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks and some other players. They got Dexter Lawrence now too, right? So they made some good changes on that defense. I'm not saying they're a top unit automatically. They're not the Texans defense or the Seahawks defense, but I think this team's defense can finally be somewhat average, which they haven't had over the last few years. The offense, I have no problems with the offense. As long as Joe Burrow is healthy, though, this team is a playoff team and a Super Bowl team, potentially. This offense is that good of a unit. Joe Burrow, some people forget how good he is, but he is an elite quarterback. He's just been injured the last few years and hasn't been able to put up a full season. And by the time he returns from injury, the season's over and whatever, or he just doesn't come back at all. I'm a full Joe Burrow believer. I believe that he is a great quarterback. I believe, again, if he's healthy, he is a top quarterback in the league, top 5 at most. Okay, that's easy to say, really. And best case scenario for the Bengals? Let's hear it here. Joe Burrow stays healthy for a majority of the year, at least. All right, he doesn't have to play every single game, but if he's out maybe a week or two, that's nothing terrible as long as those aren't important games or anything. Win their division. Okay, that's part of their best case scenario because winning their division generally is possible because the Ravens had a really bad off year last year. Not bad, but their season came off and ended on a missed kick. Now, the Ravens could easily be back in the more dominant team next year, and I wouldn't be too surprised if they are. But a healthy Bengals can generally give the Ravens a run for their money, and a healthy Bengals can probably beat them. They don't have to win the division for this scenario to work, but make the playoffs, of course. You've missed the last 3 years. Making the playoffs, I mean, there's definitely going to be some questions about the coaching staff if they miss the playoffs again. I'm talking about you, Zach Taylor, who should have been fired a couple seasons ago. But, anyways, at the end of the day, the goal is simple. Make the playoffs, win the division if possible, cruise through the playoffs, get to the AFC Championship and smack whoever you're facing in the face, and get to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they can win it. Depends on who their opponent is. But overall, I think the best case scenario for the Bengals is to return to the Super Bowl or at least the playoffs. It's kind of two things. If they can make the playoffs, that's a big next step. But honestly, this team is more than just a playoff team. They're a good team. No. They're a great team that could make a Super Bowl push if Joe Burrow's healthy, the team is good, the defense is at least average. They can push through the playoffs, push the championship game, and get to the Super Bowl potentially. That is it for the Bengals. Either a playoff appearance or a Super Bowl appearance is their best case scenario. All right, next up we have another North counterpart. We have the Green Bay Packers. What is their best case scenario? Well, over the last few years, they've been nothing but seventh seed merchants, as they have been, I think the seventh seed 3 playoff years in a row. Once against the Cowboys, where they did beat them, they actually throttled them, but then lost to the Niners. And then I believe 2024, they lost to the Eagles. And then this year, obviously, they lost to the Bears in that pretty bad choke job. So in 2024, they lost to the Eagles. And then this year, we also will have it against the Bears. Now, their schedule isn't particularly easy. I definitely think there is a lot of tough opponents on here. Week 1 and 2, you got the Vikings and the Jets. To be honest, depending on how the Vikings start right away with Kyler Murray as the starter, I think that's a potential 2-0 start for the Packers if they can get past the Vikings and the Jets. Even a potential 3-0 start if they can beat the Falcons as well. The Bucks can give them trouble, but honestly, that even don't want to sound crazy, that could be a 4-0 start potentially as well. Bears, I think, again, the days of the Packers owning the Bears is kind of over, and I think from now on it'll be always where they split, because I think the Bears are a much improved team, and they can give the Packers trouble. And we all saw the Packers choked against them twice. So, yeah. Yeah, no, we all saw that choke job. But again, they got the Cowboys. To be honest, they do own them. So, that should be fine. The Lions, depending on if they're back or not, could be a tough game. They did sweep them last year, but I'm not sure if they'll sweep them again. I think the Lions will be improved this year. Then they got the Panthers, Patriots, Vikings again, Rams, Saints, Bills, Dolphins, Bears, Texans, Lions. To be honest, those final 3 weeks are really, really brutal, to be honest, because you got the Bears, you got the Texans, and you got the Lions, especially if the Lions are good again. I mean, listen, there's a chance the Packers don't make the playoffs with how tough their schedule is. Because to be honest, the Rams are throttling them. The Rams are going to beat the shit out of the Packers, to be honest. Probably. Kind of depends on how things go. But the Rams might beat the shit out of them. I could be very wrong about this, and I could be eating my words come around that time of year. But overall, what is the Packers' best case scenario? It is simple. Don't be the goddamn 7th seed. Because to be honest, it is difficult to win playoff games where you are the 7th seed and you're always forced to play against the 2nd seed. That's why the Packers are 1 and 2 in this category. They got lucky because they beat the Cowboys once, right, as the 7th seed. Then they faced the Eagles the next year. They lost. Then they faced the Bears this year, and they lost. Being the 7th seed is not sustainable going forward. And the Packers are a good team. They have a good core. Micah Parsons, when he's healthy, he's a top-tier player. And to be honest, some people say, oh, if he never got hurt, maybe the Packers would have been maybe the 6th seed or a little bit higher. But you never know. It's all about injuries, of course. But let's be real. The Packers, again, they are a good team. They have a core. They have a good core. And if they're healthy, they could be good. Again, this schedule is not easy, though. They had to beat some real tough opponents to get to the playoffs. But if they can beat some of these teams, they can have something good. I think the best case scenario for the Packers is to not be the 7th seed. I know that sounds simple. I don't know if winning the division is possible, but I think it is because, again, the NFC North is a very competitive division. Potentially, we are looking at a year where all 4 teams are fighting for an actual playoff spot. Because listen, the Vikings are in part 4, but I'm going to talk about them for a second. If Kyler Murray or whoever, give them a competent quarterback, this team could make the playoffs. Because what was their record last year? Were they 9-8, 8-9? The fact that they did that with J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer and all the other quarterbacks they threw out there, if you got Kyler Murray playing at even an average level, that team is potentially a 10-win team. Potentially 10-7. It's no guaranteed playoff spot, but you never know. Anyways, Packers, if they can at least be the 6th seed, the 5th seed, the 4th seed, win their division potentially, their goal is to get to the championship game, I think. I'm not going to say Super Bowl because I'm not sure if that's possible, but the best case scenario for the Packers is to advance past the divisional round, I think. I don't know if it'll happen, but getting back to the playoffs, of course, is something. Getting past the wild card is something you'd also want them to do, so they can even make the divisional round. I don't know exactly what to label their best case scenario, but I think it's just simply not be the 7th seed and not be first round exits, to be honest. And that's gonna cut it for the Packers. I think it's pretty simple. If they can get to the championship game, though, that'd be pretty crazy on their part. All right, let's move on to the AFC South. We have the Tennessee Titans, and what is their best case scenario for this season? Now, I don't think the Titans are at the level to where they can jump from a bad team to a playoff team, unfortunately. I don't think that's going to happen. I know some teams are capable of doing that occasionally, once in a while, but I don't think it'll be happening here with the Titans, but I do think they can take a step forward. First off, in week 1 against the Jets, honestly, that's a win. Week 2, unless you pull off an upset, that's a loss. Giants, I think they still lose that game. There are some tough games on their schedule, not going to lie. It's not an easy schedule. It might be a long, hard year again. But I do think they can make some great improvements. I think this is a good chance for Cam Ward to go out there and really solidify himself as the starting quarterback for this team. You know, again, they got some tough games. You know, they're not going to win all of these games. I don't think they're going to beat a majority of these teams, these tough teams like the Lions or the Bengals or even the Cowboys, to be honest. But I do think they can make some noise a little bit. And I do think this team has made some good improvements throughout the draft and obviously just overall throughout the season. I think Cam Ward can take a leap forward, especially with his brand new wide receiver, Cardinal Tate, on that team. So at the end of the day, I just don't see much happening with the Titans. Not saying anything bad about them, but I don't see anything like crazy happening. I don't see a random 9-8 season and squeezing into the playoffs and getting to the wild card. I don't see that happening. But I think the thing for the Titans is to have a moderately good season and also just improve. Just this is not your year yet. This is not your year to jump to the playoffs. But if they can make some good improvements, some good changes, some just generally show that they are a better team from last season, well, that's a good thing for them. That is a good thing for them, and I think they can take a little bit of a leap. I think the final thing I'll say is the best case scenario for the Tennessee Titans. I'm not going to say 5 wins. 5 wins is pretty bad. If you can get 6 wins, go 6-11 maybe. I know that's not great. That's not a good record, but listen. They have a pretty tough schedule. Maybe pull off an upset here and there and go 7-10. But at the end of the day, it's not an easy schedule. This team is still not at that level yet. I don't think they're at a top level. They're not at a bottom tier level though either, because I think they're better than the Jets. They're probably better than the Cardinals. They're better than Dolphins. They're essentially kind of like not in the middle. They're not like mediocre, but they're better than the worst. They're better than the league's worst, which is of course the Dolphins, the Cardinals, probably the Raiders, maybe too. They're better than some of the bad teams. Well, I'm not saying the Raiders are horrible because they can easily be decent going forward, but at the end of the day, what I mean is they're better than the worst. And I think the best case scenario for the Tennessee Titans is to at least go 7-10 and show big improvements from last season. All right, our next team is an actual contender. We have the Buffalo Bills, and what is their best case scenario for this season? Let's talk about it. So, if you really think about the AFC, it is a little wide open. No one knows exactly what team will come out to be the best team. Some people think it would be the Patriots again, but the Patriots, I think, will regress a little bit. I think they will also improve at the same time, but they will regress. If that makes sense, their schedule's a lot harder. But they do have A.J. Brown now. Now, again, for the Texans, not the Texans, the Bills. Week 1, they have the Texans, which is a tough game. I'm pretty sure they lost to the Texans last season. But the Bills, I keep on saying the wrong team here. The Bills have made some good improvements themselves, including bringing in DJ Moore. But at the end of the day, their schedule isn't insanely. I mean, yeah, they have some opponents. Okay, they got the Rams, Bears, and Packers. However, I think they'll simply handle both of them, to be honest. And they got the Chiefs. They play essentially the entire NFC North and some other random teams sprinkled in. But to be honest, when you look at the AFC, there's no 100% defined team that's going to dominate. I mean, some people will say the Broncos, and that's a fair bet because the Broncos, I think, will be a very improved team next year, including especially now that they have Jalen Waddle on that team, and the defense is still already a unit. But the Bills, I think, are another team that could potentially take advantage of the fact that I think the Chiefs will get off to a slow start. I don't think if the Chiefs are back at all, um, I think it'll be a bit of a slow start potentially. However, at the end of the day, I still think the Bills can be a better team. Maybe. I mean, if they can beat them in the regular season, but if they meet them in the playoffs, can they actually do it? But listen. Josh Allen is a great quarterback. He is a epic. He's a great quarterback. He really is a great quarterback. He is a top tier, top three, of course. And the Bills, they're a good team. They got their new fancy stadium. They got a loyal fan base. Good news, you guys don't have to endure that 20 years of suffering anymore, right? At the end of the day, listen, here's the best case scenario for the Bills. I'm going to tell you right here. You don't have to do it, but getting the number one seed would make sure the playoffs runs through Buffalo, right? It'll make sure it runs through you guys. If they can't get it, maybe win the division. Still guarantees you a home game at least. As I said, I think the Patriots will regress a little bit. I know they made some improvements, but overall their schedule is not a cupcake schedule. It is not a challenge of the cupcakes anymore. You actually got some actual opponents on there, not facing some bottom feeder teams anymore. You are actually facing contenders. So I think the Patriots will regress in the fact that their schedule's just tougher. Not that they got worse or anything. Their schedule's just generally more of a challenge. The Bills, again, they're an experienced team. They're a good, experienced team. They know what they're doing. And to be honest, here's how it goes. Again, get to the playoffs, obviously. Win your division if possible. Get the number one seed if possible. Both those aren't necessarily required. Here it is, folks. Get to Super Bowl 61 and win. That is the best case scenario for the Buffalo Bills. We all know what happened to them. I don't know. Remember what year it was? Was it the 80s or was it no? It wasn't the 70s. It was like the 80s. Was it the 80s when they lost 4 in a row? I don't know. I forgot that fact. I don't know how I forgot it. I think it was in the 80s though. Someone fact checked me though in the comments. Yes. I don't remember when that happened, but I know it was a long time ago. Point being, the Bills have suffered 4 Super Bowl losses, all in a row, by the way. And we all know what's been happening recently. They get to the playoffs, they run into the Chiefs, and they lose. Last year, it was against the Broncos, but nevertheless, let's be real. Listen, here it is. As I said, the best case scenario for the Buffalo Bills is to reach Super Bowl 61 and win. That's like the only thing I can think of because, well, they wouldn't want to just make it. They want to make it and win it. And I think that's generally possible. The AFC is slightly wide open. Again, there's no bona fide 100% top team there. When you look at the NFC, it's a little bit different because there actually is a, certified top tier team. It's either the Rams, the Seahawks, some crazy people say the Niners. However, they ain't going to be near the top, to be honest. You get what I'm saying, guys. Top best case scenario for the Bills, win Super Bowl 61 and give Josh Allen a ring. All right, we travel to the AFC West. We have the Las Vegas Raiders. What is their best case scenario? Now, it's kind of simple to say. They won't be touching the playoffs, to be honest. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. I do think the idea of letting Mendoza sit behind Kirk Cousins for the year is the smart choice. It is the right choice because the Raiders just generally don't have a great supporting cast for him in year one. I know they have Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty, but the receiving core is pretty fucking bad. It's not great. You just don't got a lot to work with. Anyways, their schedule, ironically, isn't super. I'm just now looking at it a little bit. Okay, there are some tough opponents here, but week 1 against the Dolphins, that's a possible win, to be honest. That's a win, possibly. Actually, that is a win. They got some tough games. Oh, dear. The Rams are going to have fun. The Raiders won't. But overall, they do got some tough, winnable games. I mean, they got some tough games and they got some winnable games. Like, they can beat the Jets. They'll probably steamroll the Jets on it. Actually, no, I feel like that'll be a 10-3 type game. Maybe 6-3. But overall, I think the idea of letting Kirk Cousins start, despite him not being an elite quarterback at all, or a good one, to be honest. He's eh. I think that's still the right choice because it's better than throwing the rookie right in there just to get torn up by all these teams they play. I don't think the Raiders are going to make much noise this year. I don't think they will, but I think that'll be a good thing as they want to secure another good draft pick for next year, and maybe they can pick the best receiver available. So you finally have a little bit of something. But overall, I don't see much happen with the Raiders. Their best case scenario is to simply kind of suck so you can get good draft picks or maybe trade Max Crosby and get some capital out of him. I'm joking. I don't think that'll ever happen. We hear this rumor every single offseason that they're going to trade him, and it literally almost happened. It almost happened with this year, with the Ravens getting him. It got so close, and then it didn't happen. So, at the end of the day, though, I don't see much happen with the Raiders. I think they have a potential future, but it's going to take a couple years to brew. Letting Mendoza sit behind Kirk Cousins again is a good, smart choice because a lot of these teams just throw their rookie quarterbacks into the wolves and then they wonder why they're not good and they're not developed and they suck. All these teams do this. There's so many teams that rush developing quarterbacks and wonder why they're labeled busts. It's because they just throw them out there to get thrown. Like Zach Wilson got thrown out there, and the Jets are the Jets. They suck ass. So the Jets are a terrible bottom feeder team. The Jets are their franchise is probably more disastrous than Trump's second term. So actually, no, they're pretty on par. Yeah, but Trump's second term is a disaster. Which is worse, guys? The Jets over the last like 30 years or Trump's second term? Trump's second term, probably. Anyways, no need to get into that. Anyways, Jets suck. We're not even talking about the Jets. We're talking about the Raiders. Yeah, I think their best case scenario is to simply get a good draft pick next year. I know that's not very optimistic, but it's kind of the truth. The Raiders have nothing to work with on offense, really, except for two players. So, didn't they draft? I think they drafted a rookie. For a receiver, I just don't remember who it is. But nevertheless, they still need more help, and they need It's not going to happen. Nothing's going to happen this year, guys. But that's going to wrap it up for the Raiders. I think their best case scenario is to simply suck. Not suck so bad to where you get back-to-back number one overall picks, but suck enough to where you can get maybe a top 10 pick. At least. All right, next team, we got the Washington Commanders. And what is their best case scenario? Sorry, that's my bed squeaking. It's falling apart. Anyways, I don't really know what to say about the Commanders. I kind of just look at them, and they're just kind of an underwhelming team. I'm gonna be real. I don't know what this team has that can make them win the division alone, make the playoff. Their schedule is not easy. Week 1 and 2, week 3 actually. Week 4 could, but your first 4 weeks, I would just say first 3 because we don't know what to go on with the Colts. To be honest, their first 3 weeks is tough. That's an 0-3 start. All right, at worst, it's an 0-3 start. At best, it's a 1-2 start, with the one win coming from maybe the. I don't actually know. Actually, that's an 0-3 start. Then you got some other tough teams. You got the Niners later on. You got the Texans. You got some tough teams. Their schedule at the end of the day, though, like some out of division teams are not that bad. Like they got the Cardinals. That's a free win essentially. They got the Titans. You know, they're an improved team, but can they beat them? Maybe. You got the Vikings, which if the Vikings have another bad quarterback performance, that's a potential win. But I look at this Commanders team and I don't really know what to say about them. Or like, what about this team screams that they can win, the division? They're not better than the Eagles and they're not better than the Cowboys. They're probably not even better than the Giants, to be honest. That might be a hot take, honestly. Jaden Daniels did regress last year, but it didn't help that the team was just generally falling apart around him. But I don't know what there is to this team. Maybe I just don't know ball, but I just look at the Commanders and they're just kind of just eh. Like, they don't have certain players that, like, would make a coach fear them preparing to play them, There's not much to fear with this Commanders team. Like, let's just use the Cowboys for an example. Okay, the Commanders are coming into town. What do we got to look out for? Nothing? Maybe Terry McLaurin if he's actually healthy. That's it. This team just doesn't have enough, in my opinion. And maybe I'm a hater. Maybe I'm a hater. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But let's get back into it. Their best case scenario is to simply prove me wrong, one, and improve. Do better than they were last year. Maybe get back to the playoffs, because we saw it happen once. They got to the playoffs. They got to the NFC Championship, for crying out loud. They got stomped by the Eagles at the end of the day, but they got close. Now, their best case scenario is to simply get back to the playoffs if they can make it happen. First off, Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin have to be healthy. I'm pretty sure they missed a combined 17 games last year together, so they got to remain healthy. Week 5 is canceled. I have respect for Jaden Daniels, so that's a free win, I guess. Overall, the Commanders, if they can get back to the playoffs, which is possible, but I do think it'll be a difficult task. The NFC is extremely stacked. It is extremely packed. There's a lot of contending teams out there. I mean, again, as I mentioned for the Vikings, if the Vikings actually have good quarterback play, you potentially have 4 teams from one division fighting for a playoff spot. Because at the end of the day, the Vikings are a playoff team. They just need a quarterback. But again, we're not talking about the Vikings. The Commanders can make the playoffs, potentially. I know I just said that they have nothing to look fear on that team, but if they can really put something together, they can create fear, essentially, preparing to play them. But if they can pull off a few upsets, pull off a few miracles, pull off a couple big game performances by Jaden Daniels and the rest of this team, they can make the playoffs. But at the end of the day, they still have a tough schedule. They have a somewhat tough schedule. They have a tough division. You got the Giants, who are a big time improved team from last season. You got the Cowboys and you got the Eagles. Some people will say the Eagles have regressed because they've lost A.J. Brown, but I think Devontae Smith and Mekhi Lemon will be perfectly capable of carrying that receiving core. They still have Saquon Barkley. They still have a good team. I don't understand the random thing saying, oh, the Eagles are going to fall off. They're still solid. They're still a good team. But at the end of the day, the Commanders are by far, I wouldn't say the worst. No, they might actually be. They might be the weakest team in the division. Possibly. It kind of depends on how things go. But they might be the weakest team. But if they can really prove me wrong on all the shit I'm talking and make the playoffs, that's their best case scenario, is to simply get back to the playoffs. I won't get too over ambitious by saying they can make it back to the championship game. But if they can make some noise, pull off a few upsets here and there, I don't think winning the division is possible, but, play good enough to at least make the playoffs. And that's going to wrap, their best case scenario is to simply make the playoffs. All right, next up, we got a not-so-exciting team to talk about. We got the Cleveland Browns, and I'm going to kind of keep it short here. Sorry, Browns fans, but there's really nothing to look forward to with this team. But let's get into it. So, also, Deshaun Watson was officially named the starter for Week 1. So, yeah, have fun with that. Their schedule isn't particularly difficult, though, just by looking at it at first glance. Like, honestly, I'm kind of glancing at it. There's really nothing, they're not, obviously they got their divisional games, but really, actually, this is the easiest schedule I've ever seen. This is not a bad schedule. The problem is the Browns still suck. You got the Jags on here. They're a tough team, of course. The Bucks, but the Panthers, of course, too, and you got a division. But outside of that, they got the Jets. They can maybe beat the Jets. The Saints, we don't know what to expect from them. 100%. They got the Titans. Giants can be a problem, and but really outside of that, their schedule really isn't that difficult. But again, they suck. They decide to name Deshaun Watson the starter, which is a move I definitely don't agree with. But they're paying that man way too much money to have him sit on the bench, and let's be real, he'll be benched probably by week 5 at most. He'll either be benched or injured, which, not to hope on injury for everyone, but on anyone, but overall, I do think he'll probably end up getting benched. There's no way he plays a full season. This is just a normal thing. We all know Deshaun Watson is bad. He's not a good quarterback. His last time being good was when he was still with the Texans. He hasn't been good since. And, I don't think he's going to magically become good, especially on a bad Browns team. There's nothing to be desired about their offense. Their defense lost Myles Garrett. Now, yes, they get Jared Verse. And their defense is still a good unit. I'm not going to take that away from them because they're still a good unit. But at the end of the day, you can't really do much with that good defensive unit with a terrible offense. And when I mean terrible, I mean a really, really awful offense. And Deshaun Watson is just not a good quarterback. So I think the best case scenario for the Browns is to, one, come out of the season knowing who your real future is. It's not Deshaun Watson. It's not him. Is it Shador? Because I mean, let's be real. Shador will end up starting at some point this year, whether it's because Deshaun Watson gets injured or he's benched. I mean, he could easily be benched by week 4. Take notes of that, chat. I'm going to make a final prediction. Deshaun Watson will be benched by week 5, maybe week 6. But my final thing is either week 5 or 6. So to keep that in mind, chat. Remember that when it comes to week 5 or 6 of the NFL season, and he's not benched, keep in mind, because nevertheless, though, he's not a good quarterback. This offense has really nothing to it. I mean, for their future, they got some draft picks, of course. You know, they got some young talent, but they just don't got what it takes this year. I think their best case scenario is just simply suck as usual. Simply suck as usual. Find out who your quarterback is, whether it's someone in the 2027 draft or if it's someone currently on your roster. If Deshaun Watson somehow balls out, then I'll apologize to him, sort of, I guess. I mean, he doesn't really deserve that, but give him a little bit of credit. I think Shador really should probably be the starter. He's not that good either, to be honest. At least he hasn't shown too much. But maybe he's made improvement. I'd rather trust my team with Shador Sanders, though, than fucking Deshaun Watson. But again, let's get the real best case scenario is as simple as this: to suck. I have nothing positive to say for the Browns. They're a bad team, no offense. Or maybe you got some maybe some young talent there, but there's really nothing to go off of. Let's get wrap it up for the Browns. Really, their goal is to suck. Final team and much more exciting team to talk about. We got the Chicago Bears, who are actually moving. Apparently, I guess they're moving out of Chicago. I don't know what's happening with that. Or they might be moving. I don't know. Anyways, we got the Chicago Bears. They're definitely a lot more exciting to talk about than the Browns because they're the Browns, bro. I mean, who's excited for the Browns 2026 season? Let's be real. Anyways, Bears, they had a good year last year. They won their division. They gave the Rams a run for their money. They gave the Rams trouble. Their schedule, it's not bad. Let's break it down. Week 1 against the Panthers, they can win that. Week 2 against the Vikings, I mean, depends on how Kyler Murray's playing. They can win that. Week 3 against the Eagles, I mean, they beat the Eagles last year. Remember that. But I think that could be a toss-up game. They're certainly beating the Jets. And again, I think, as I said, with the Packers, I think the days of the Packers owning the Bears is over. And I think they always split because they're both good teams. Week 6 against the Falcons, they could probably win that. Patriots, possible. Seahawks will be a very tough game. Bucks, Saints, Lions, they got some winnable games, but they do got some tough ones, of course, too. Winning the division won't be easy because I got to say, the NFC North is possibly the most competitive division in football. Some people will say it's the NFC West. And I would say, possibly because you got the Niners who are competing, you got the Rams and the Seahawks, but the Cardinals are the Cardinals. With the NFC North, all 4 teams are potential contenders. Say what you want about the Packers, but a healthy Micah Parsons can really carry a defense. All right? Jordan Love is a solid quarterback. They got a solid core, and they got a good team. They got a good team. The Lions, if their offense can wake up and, get back to their 2024 form, where they were, is that what the year they went 15-2? And they can actually have an average defense, or at least a good defense, that team's a contending team. You got the Vikings. They got a top 10 defense, okay? Top 10 defensive unit. And if Kyler Murray can even play at an average level and get carried by the Minnesota offense, they're good. They're a potential contender. Not maybe a Super Bowl contender, but a playoff contender. All 4 teams here, they're all fighting. And you got the Bears, of course, who will also be in that race. All 4 teams are potential contenders if things work out for them. So for the Bears, they are defending champs of their division, yes, but can they do it again? And most importantly, can they even get into the playoffs when there's only 7 seeds available, okay? You're only going to get in either as a wild card spot or division winner. And honestly, there is a chance the Bears can go back-to-back. There's a chance they can win another division, but it depends. Are the Lions going to come back from the dead because they had a pretty mediocre year last year? But remember, the Vikings, again, they went, 8-9, 9-8 with J.J. McCarthy, Max Brosmer, and some other random backup quarterbacks? If Kyler Murray plays at an average level, they're a 10-win team, maybe an 11-win team. I'm just saying. For the Bears, we all know Caleb Williams has a good year last year. And, the Bears had a good season. They pulled off some crazy shit, like their comeback against the Packers twice, by the way. Their tough loss to the Rams, even though that game was a loss, that game was a good game. The Bears played really well, and they could have won that game. If things worked out for them, they could have won that game. They would have been stomped by Seattle, but they could have won that game. The best case scenario for the Bears, I think, is to take another step forward. So, win the division again. It's not required. Win your division, or at least make the playoffs. But win the division, we definitely guarantee one. The playoffs goes through Chicago. Chicago's cold during the winter. I'm just saying. It did affect the Rams a little bit, probably. They're probably a little cold. But overall, if you win your division, at least make sure you at least have a home game, unless you play a seed higher than you. But, were they, the second seed last year? What seed were they? I don't remember anymore, but they were a pretty high seed, okay? I'm pretty sure there were 2 or 3, but I'm pretty sure there were 2. I might be wrong. Someone fact-check me. I forgot. But overall, win your division if possible, or at least get to the playoffs. Whether you're a wild card team or you're a playoff, technically by winning your division. Nevertheless, make the playoffs, get past the wild card, get past the divisional, and make it to the NFC Championship game. I don't know if I want to go as bold to say that their best case scenario will be to make the Super Bowl, because I'm not sure if I'm willing to say that. But I think making the NFC Championship game is just as good. Whether they can win it and get to the Super Bowl is another thing, but they're a good team. We all know that. I mean, yes, they did lose David Moore. Not David Moore. Who am I thinking of? DJ Moore. Am I thinking? Yeah, DJ Moore. What? My apologies, guys. They did lose DJ Moore, but they still got a really good unit. They got Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, good running back room, good tight end room, good quarterback with Caleb Williams. They still got a good core. I don't think this team's going to completely fall apart without DJ Moore. I almost said AJ Moore. Who's AJ Moore, bro? Sorry, guys. But overall, the best case scenario for the Bears is, I think, to simply win your division again and get to the NFC Championship game. Again, I would say Super Bowl, but I'm not sure if I'm willing to say that. I do think the Bears can take a big leap forward, potentially. Even with the loss of certain players over the offseason, I think they can, adapt. I think they can adapt. Caleb Williams is a really good quarterback. I think he can find a way to pull off some miracles in the playoffs. But that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Final is the Bears' best case scenario is to make the NFC Championship game at least. Yeah, so that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Part 4, I want to have it out by Friday at most. I know this whole series is coming out so much later than I thought. I originally wanted to start recording this shit before the draft, and then I pushed it to after the draft, and then I pushed it to the summer, and here I am making part 3 with 2 weeks to go to the regular season. So, yeah, we're a little slow on time, but I will have part 4 out by either this Friday or maybe in the first week of September. Not first week, but the first few days, September 1st or 2nd, very early. I'm going to have it out as soon as possible. I have a pretty busy work schedule, long hours, but overall I will have part 4 out very soon. In terms of other videos, I'm going to be playing the Modern Warfare 4 beta. I'm going to give you guys a spoiler. Yes, I'm going to play the Modern Warfare 4 beta and give my thoughts on it. I did the same thing last year. I played the Black Ops 7 beta. I'm going to play the Modern Warfare beta when it's public, which I actually think it's tomorrow. I swear, I saw a thing on my Xbox saying I can play it tomorrow. Let me check it again. I'm going to just... Where's the beta? Where's the beta? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Is that it? Nope, that's something else. I clicked on Fortnite. Sorry, hold on. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it. I'm pretty sure it says something I can play tomorrow. I didn't buy the game, by the way. It's just saying I can... Okay, fine. Where's... You're being complicated, Xbox. I saw it earlier. Whatever, guys. Point being, I know I saw a thing saying I can play starting tomorrow. Or whenever the beta is public, essentially. Just keep that in mind. Whenever the beta is public, I will play it. I'll probably make the video at least a few days after I play the beta. Just cause, so I have time to really think. Because that's what I did with the Black Ops 7. Is I made the video 2 days after I played the beta. Just to give myself a feel for it. There it is. There's the beta. It says I can play coming in one day. So I guess it's coming tomorrow. I'm not sure. Is that for early access or is that just for public? Open beta begins 25th. No, that's early access for. Oh. Okay, whatever. That's what it says in what it comes. It says it's coming in one day. I'm not sure what it's talking about, but keep in mind again. That will be the next video. I'm going to be making a video on Trump's disastrous war in Iran. I'm going to be making I actually don't know what else is on the schedule, but that's kind of it. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next video, which again, part 4 will be out by Friday at most, hopefully. If any later, it's going to come out a few days early in September, like the 1st or the 2nd. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video, and have a great rest of your day.